The pain comes without warning. One moment you are grinding grain, or gathering roots, or walking back to camp. The next, your body is telling you something ancient and urgent. There are no doctors, no hospital, no epidural, no phone to call anyone. Just you, your body, and a few women who have done this before. For 300,000 years, this was the only way a human being entered the world. Today, childbirth is treated as a medical emergency waiting to happen, and in many ways it is. But your ancestors did not have that option. They gave birth in the dirt, in caves, beside rivers, on the open savanna. And somehow the species survived. Not just survived, thrived, spread across every continent, became the most dominant creature this planet has ever produced, all before a single pair of surgical gloves existed. So how did they actually do it? The first thing to understand is that your body was not designed for modern birth. It was designed for ancient birth. The human pelvis evolved over millions of years alongside a very specific problem, a brain that kept getting bigger. Your ancestors began walking upright roughly 4 to 6 million years ago. That shift narrowed the birth canal. At the same time, brains were expanding, making infant skulls larger. The result was what anthropologists call the Obstetric Dilemma, a tight, dangerous passage that forced human infants to be born earlier and more helpless than almost any other primate. A baby giraffe can walk within hours. A human newborn cannot lift its own head. This is why human birth, unlike birth in nearly every other mammal, almost always required assistance. You could not do it alone. You were not meant to. And your ancestors understood this. Wenda Trevathan, a biological anthropologist at New Mexico State University, has spent decades studying the evolutionary origins of birth assistance. Her research suggests that the practice of helping women during labor is at least as old as our species itself, possibly older. She argues that birth attendants, someone being present to guide the infant out, to clear the airway, to support the mother, was not a luxury, it was a survival adaptation. Groups that had it lost fewer mothers and fewer infants. Groups that did not struggled. So who was in that birthing space? In most hunter-gatherer societies studied by anthropologists, childbirth was attended by experienced older women, grandmothers, aunts, women who had given birth themselves and who had watched others do the same. The father was typically excluded. This was not cruelty. It was knowledge management. The women present had skills that mattered. They knew positions that eased labor. They knew how to turn a poorly positioned infant. They knew what herbs reduced bleeding. And they knew, critically, when something had gone wrong. Melissa Cheney, a medical anthropologist at Oregon State University, has documented how knowledge of birth practices in traditional societies was passed down entirely through observation and participation. Young girls watched, adolescents assisted, adult women led. By the time a woman in a hunter-gatherer band gave birth for the first time, she had likely witnessed dozens of births. She was not naive about what was coming. Your body knew, and your community knew too. The physical environment mattered enormously. Archaeological evidence from sites like Ohala II in Israel, a well-preserved hunter-gatherer camp dating back roughly 23,000 years, gives us clues about the intimate spaces ancient people inhabited. These were not open-air exposure camps. They were carefully constructed shelters, built low, tight, protected from wind. Birth happened inside, or just outside, in a sheltered space set apart from the main group. Across cultures, anthropologists have observed that women in traditional societies often prefer to give birth in a semi-upright position, squatting, kneeling, or supported from behind by another woman. This is almost certainly how your ancestors labored. Gravity helps. The pelvis opens slightly more when you squat. These were not random choices. They were refined over tens of thousands of years of collective observation about what worked. Now, let's reconstruct a day, or rather, a night. It is roughly 15,000 years ago. The camp is a cluster of low shelters on a riverbank. The fire is low. Most people are asleep. But in one shelter, 3 women are awake. One of them has been in labor since before sunset. She is crouched, gripping a horizontal branch lashed between 2 posts, a makeshift support bar. Behind her, an older woman presses her palms firmly at the laboring woman's lower back with each contraction, offering counterpressure. A second woman crouches in front, watching, ready. There are heated stones nearby, wrapped in animal skin, pressed against the lower abdomen to ease the cramping. There are dried plants, yarrow perhaps, or shepherd's purse, both known for their ability to slow postpartum bleeding, prepared in advance and ready to use if needed. There is no screaming, at least not constantly. Modern research suggests that women who labor with continuous support, what we now call a doula, have significantly shorter labors, fewer complications, and report less pain. Your ancestral mother had a team. She was never alone. The infant arrives. The attending woman clears the airway, presses gently on the chest if the baby does not cry immediately. The cord is cut, not with scissors, but with a sharp stone blade or a reed, or sometimes tied and left to dry and fall naturally. The placenta is delivered, and in most cultures either buried, burned, or in some societies consumed, a practice seen widely among mammals and still documented in some traditional communities today. And then the group closes in. The baby is passed, touched, examined, named in some cultures immediately, in others not until survival seems more certain. Here is the counterintuitive part. For most of human history, infant mortality was high. Your ancestors knew this, and their response was not to love their children less, it was to build community structures entirely around protecting them. James McKenna, a biological anthropologist at the University of Notre Dame, has shown that mother-infant co-sleeping, sharing a sleeping surface, was the universal norm for virtually all of human history. Infants were never put down. They were carried, worn against the body during the day, and held through the night. Their temperature was regulated by their mother's skin. Their breathing was entrained by their mother's rhythms. The modern practice of isolating infants in separate cribs in separate rooms is, from an evolutionary standpoint, extraordinarily unusual, possibly dangerous. Your ancestors also practiced extended breastfeeding, typically 2 to 4 years, sometimes longer, as documented by anthropologist Sarah Blaffer-Hrdy in her landmark work on maternal instincts and cooperative breeding. This was not just nutrition, it was birth control. Frequent nursing suppresses ovulation, naturally spacing pregnancies 2 to 4 years apart. Your great-grandmother 10,000 times removed was not having a child every year. She was raising one thoroughly, deeply, communally, before the next arrived. The infant did not belong only to its mother. Among the Kung San of the Kalahari, studied extensively by Richard Lee beginning in the 1960s, infants are held and carried by multiple adults throughout the day. Grandmothers, aunts, older children, all participate in care. Hrdy's model of cooperative breeding suggests this was the ancient norm. We are alloparents, a species that evolved to raise children together, in networks of trusted adults. Which brings us back to the beginning. You are lying in a low shelter, your newborn pressed against your chest, the older women moving quietly around you, banking the fire, preparing food. You are exhausted. You are also, by any measure, not alone. Your community exists because of moments exactly like this one. Birth was never just a biological event. It was a community event, a ritual, a renegotiation of every relationship in the group. The pain came without warning, but the support, that had been there all along. Modern obstetrics has given us extraordinary tools: fetal monitoring, cesarean sections, blood transfusions, antibiotics. These things save lives that would have been lost 10,000 years ago. But the one thing modern birth often strips away: continuous human presence, the circle of experienced women, the warm hands, the counterpressure, the someone who has done this before, is the one thing your body was actually built to receive. The most powerful intervention in ancient childbirth was not a tool or a plant, it was another person. Your body still knows how to give birth. It has known for 300,000 years. What it has always needed, and what it still needs, is for someone to stay in the room.